as we do swap over to Group C. So if you guys were really super stoked on watching Beyond versus Maru, that's going to be on the main stream. I do believe Maynard and Artosis are going to be casting, so make sure to check that one out over there. But here on our side, I don't actually know who won, Bueller or Classic.
So Classic actually did win that. Very convincing game number 3 after an incredibly close game number 2. Classic went down in game number 1. I didn't get to catch much of that, but game number 2, Classic went for a big 2-base kind of, Immortal Archon Adept attack. And yeah, barely overwhelmed. Sorry, I just got a little bit thrown off because I just found the window that I had our stream open on, and I was trying to find it because I could hear us talking while I was speaking. That was throwing me off there a little bit. But yeah, it was like this super crazy game 2 on Overgrowth, dude. You got to go back and watch the VOD later if you get a chance. Same to anyone who didn't get to watch it live. It like almost killed BL, but it didn't. And then they were both in like this weird low economy situation for like another 10-15 minutes. It was really cool.
Well, Classic is online. We got Dark hosting this lobby up like a boss and just getting everybody in so we can get this party started. Man, this is not at all a comment on IEM, but just live tournaments in general. The downtime is brutal. Like, gosh. I did the math while we were waiting. The entire series of Solar versus Maru took 28 minutes, and we were waiting 57 for this. So it's a game well worth waiting for, I would say.
Oh, yeah. This is a big one. Dark versus Classic ex-teammates. These guys played in the round of 4 of Star League. Star League was the one, of course, which Dark did end up making it through to the finals of recently, I believe, and where he faced off against Solar. So Classic went down to Dark. I believe it was 2-3. In that series. It was super close. Dark kind of ended up metagaming him a bit to take him down, but we are going to have another shot at both players taking each other down, spawning down here in the bottom left-hand side of Daybreak, our red Zerg player. It is Dark.
One of the best Zergs in the world. And of course in the upper right, none other than the blue Protoss Classic. Now, I've actually really enjoyed watching Classic play recently. Twice versus Innovation, and recently Make Korea Great Again, as well as like it was like the SGL. But the point is, this guy has once again, like many of the other Koreans, kind of been unleashed, and he's been playing everything. And I've been really enjoying it.
Yeah, these guys are getting out there. Dark tweeting about his stream every few days when he's actually streaming on Twitch. It's crazy to see these guys streaming, playing all sorts of tournaments, and really just getting up in the action. Classic, interestingly, going to be going for a Nexus First this game. I feel like almost every time I see Nexus First opening these days, it just goes into the DT Archon drop build. It feels like it's been like 20 ZVPs before since the last time I saw a Protoss do any other follow-up behind this. So that's what I'm kind of expecting here from Classic.
Well, what I find really interesting about that build is that it's still the priority. And I think a large part of the Archons, like forget the DTs for a second, because it's only recently we've seen a couple of people try and actually use them, but the Archon aspect of this became really popular, and I think especially when the Hydra's got that crazy buff, you want to do as much damage as you possibly can early, and it was the greatest way to invest into that. Now the Hydras have been kind of toned back a little bit. I'm curious to see if we're going to see strategies start to revert and maybe go back to what they were before the patch. Granted, there's still other parts of the game that were affected majorly by 3.8, and of course the more recent like little one that followed, but I don't know. Do you think, Pig, honestly, do you think this is going to stay the standard for a while?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say right now. I mean, things always come and go based just on player experience. Even when balance doesn't change, you can be 2 years into a state of balance and things are still rotating around. So very hard to predict right now. I think this does seem like one of those things where it just has so much micro potential, and because Zerg doesn't really have that much anti-air, it just makes sense that this is a great way to put on pressure, which is, if you've got the right control, very flexible and very risk-free. You should never lose those units in that Warp Prism if you're on top of your micro.
a bit of an interesting wall. It's got 2 holes in it, I think, right? That's not fully walled off.
Yeah, a little bit of a couple weak points in there. Luckily for Classic, Dark is not the kind to just YOLO with Banelings or anything like that. Dark's one of the most safe Korean players there is. You know, he throws out all-ins, but I really think he is like overly safe.
I was gonna say we gotta put an asterisk in that because of course it was Dark who made Banelings popular in the matchup. If you remember, it was like almost solely and entirely on him that everyone started using them for, frankly, all of Legacy of the Void.
Never all in though, you know, never all in. It's always from many sides while somehow building drones and upgrades and expanding at the same time. Like,
that's true.
He's just such a macro god. Like, he is so good at keeping it up while doing everything else. And that's what he's a big master of. Of course, Classic here, going to be going for 4 gateways, the Robo and that DT shown on the way. So it is going to be that Archon drop build and Evolution Chamber and Baneling Nest from Dark on his side of the map. He does have that Overlord speed, so he sees everything that's going on right now.
Well,
you'll see here that Classic doesn't even try to contest 0 anti-air units, because what's the point? Zerg's going to see everything anyway.
I love that it was all Overlord speed, but then it was just kind of this Overlord chillin'. Now, it looks like we might have something up over here. Yeah, the Overlord turning into the Transport Overlord. Gonna be dropping some Lings in that main. This is something that can get a little bit spooky, but the Warp Prism is gonna accidentally see this, and that's gonna work out very nicely for Classic.
Yep, should be well prepared to stop this. The Mothership Core, though, is all the way down at the 3rd base, not in position to overcharge to stop this. 2 Adepts are warping in because there's almost no units out with this build. This is a real bare bones build from Classic. And these Zerglings going to come in, going to start to kill a few probes here. Nice start to the aggression. The DTs do poke in on the 3rd. They see a Spore, a Spine almost finished, a few Queens and Banelings, and they do have to just, gonna get a Creep Tumor and maybe almost get a Queen. Just gonna get the Creep Tumor and gonna have to pull back. The Zerglings have had to withdraw into the Overlord on the other side of the map and pick back up. Both guys just kind of poking away at each other, but for now, Classic's 3rd base still isn't down. That's pretty standard for this build. We'll have to see what he does next. A couple Zealots warping in along with these Archons. Ooh, Classic wanting to poke a little bit harder here, seeing if there's a hole in the defenses. Dark with a few Banelings prepared for this.
Yeah, the Zealots, I'm not sure how much that's really going to add. It's a bit of tankability, I suppose, but that's the point of the Archons, too. They can certainly take hits for days. Getting a couple of swings on the Queen is always nice, though. She's almost gone down.
Wants to get that Queen. If that Queen goes down, there's no mobile anti-air here. And then the Warp Prism can run around for days. Already got 2 of the Queens, so that's a very nice pick off for Classic. That gives him a lot of freedom to continue poking around here. And you can see Dark moving out with this drone, wants to take this 4th. Well, without Warp Prism regenerating its shields, the Archon's doing the same. I feel like this is a good start to things for Classic.
Just cutting into you for a sec, Pig, because we did have those Baneling drops go off, and 10 probes died to it.
Damn.
Really nice for Dark to get in there, too, because this was something where he was feeling a lot of pressure back on his side of the map. So the fact that he's able to multitask, much less plan ahead to do that, was just fantastic. But I think this was something we knew was coming. You know, he kept those Lings alive from the earlier attack, and it's just a matter of time. Classic maybe should have expected that. Luckily, though, both players have such a high worker count right now. 10 is not the end of the world, but it was not good for Classic.
Oh, nice rejection on the Archon drop. Classic's got to be careful. Takes way too much damage on that Warp Prism, more than he wanted to there. And Dark forces out a couple of overcharges on the 3rd as well. Dark looking to be in a good position right now. He's up a bit in workers. He's already got his +1 melee and his lair almost finished. He's going up to 5 hatcheries. And Classic here is struggling to get that 3rd base secured. Does have Stalkers guarding the main base. He's going to be much better positioned to stop this this failing drop.
Yeah, so that's not going to get a lot done. Lings had run into the 30. He's trying to distract and hoping that the Stalkers wouldn't have been there, but unfortunately, very well defended. This time, only one of the Banelings connects. For those who don't know the dynamic too, +2 weapons, that's when the Banelings start one-shotting these probes, so gotta just a little bit more and those Baneling drops are going to be super potent.
Yep, that +2 is on the way now, as well as +1 Carapace. Dark, one of the few Zerg players who likes to add a second Evo chamber for armor upgrades with this style. And that actually does have a big effect to help, take away the... the Warp Prism on the left-hand side! Classic! Massive mistake! Just must have been a misclick there with that Warp Prism. Just moves it right over 3 Queens, not watching. and actually is just going to lose the Warp Prism and both Archons just to kill a couple of Queens. Hopefully get some drones with this as well, actually.
Justifiably not watching, I'll say, because he did get the very last second warp in to plug the hole in the natural that kept those Lings from running by, thus bringing them back home. 11 drones die, kind of sucked losing the Warp Prism, took away a lot of potential, but it kept his main and natural base safe.
Yeah, getting the drone kills really made that worthwhile as well, I guess, because those Zerglings were on the other side of the map. Actually worked out okay for Classic. Classic now is getting the more efficient Archons in the form of High Templar, so going to be wasting a lot less minerals on those Archons as opposed to those DT Archons, even though it ends up with the same unit in the end. His upgrades are continuing now. His +1 is finished. He will be getting charge and adding that in. Baneling drops are just not stopping here for Dark. He's just going to keep on going over and over.
These ones are bigger, though. If this... Well, actually, hold up. This could be scary. There's a cannon already coming down. This Overlord's almost dead. Overcharge will kill it. When Baneling gets out, only to explode. We're getting close to that +2 weapons timing, though. And I hope Dark keeps doing this. I mean, the difference that upgrade makes, the amount of probes you can kill with 4 Banelings increases so much.
Interestingly, Hydras are being made here for Dark. You know, they still do have that big move speed increase on creep, which makes them so much better at defending. But when it comes to attacking, they really aren't any different to how they were in the previous patch. So interesting to see Dark here opting for the addition of 15 Hydralisks to his Ling Bane composition. Classic shutting down these Baneling counters. Great defense.
He's going to need to keep some of these Banelings alive. These Zealots are going to come with charge, and charge lots are really good at shredding away at the very low health of those Hydras. So, Classic's got a nice army. It's up to Dark to whether he can deal with it or not. I feel like he's going to have the tools if he sees this, if he prepares correctly. I mean, Hydras will help deal with the Archons, they'll help deal with the Immortals, but not if there's charge lots in their face. And a lot of these Banelings trying to run around the map, Lings trying to run around these sides, they're not getting a lot done, but more importantly, they're taking away from what's going to protect those Hydras.
Just got to take my hat off to Classic here. He just keeps getting those warp-ins in that natural wall. You know, he can't leave that plugged because his robotics is in his main base, so his Immortals need to keep rallying out. So every time those Zerglings run by, he's got to be on point at just replugging that hole, and he keeps doing it. And just look at this, he's preparing so well for the late game, already getting a Stargate to prepare for Broodlords. He's going to start opening up Tempest Tech, and I would love to see Storm added in here as well, because he is a little bit weak to mass Baneling right now. Archons are good, but these charge lots are going to be almost useless against the Baneling Hydra composition. Unless he can counterattack with them. So I think Classic here might be underestimating the mid-tier strength of Dark's army. I really think he's going to need Storm to deal with that.
Yeah, 41 Banelings currently in play. It looks like we're going to have another drop set up here to the north side. We'll see if that gets a lot done. Lings will see the Warp Prism coming towards the main. This is full of Zealots, not Adepts. Spinecart will help for a little bit, but
here we go.
Scary.
Classic's realizing that his army is getting weaker at this point, or at least the charge lot portion of it is. So we can see he's splitting off his charge lots into these counterattacks, knowing he needs to trade them off into these counterattacks. So very good moves by him. Gonna probably... Oh, Baneling's actually going to save that 5th base at the top. Nice defense by Dark.
Yeah, he caught the Lings that were going to hop into that Overlord too. It was a really nice run by with the Zealots, even if they didn't kill the hatchery. But as we see, Dark's just waiting to load up and go with round number 2. Still more Banelings coming in. He's still got 34 on the field, about 26 more in production. This is going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, I really am worried for Classic right now. He's only got +2 attack on these Archons, no shield upgrades or anything. And here we go! Dark's just going to dive on top of it with a Hydraling Bane. His units all getting stuck behind each other. Dark, I don't know if he's watching. He's not microing his units right now. All of his units just derping against force fields. He is diving into the 3rd base, clears out the probes there. That's doing good damage. Yeah. His main army was really derping there, but gets the damage done behind it, and I think that's enough. There's no Storm in here, so this is what I was talking about. Archons just not that great against the mass Baneling. No Storm to help equalize against this composition.
Yeah, those charge lots valiantly and bravely charged into the Banelings, but even as we can see, it's not going to cut it. GG's get called. Dark will take game number 1. I like the multitasking. Some of it looked a bit almost worthless because of how little it was getting done, but the fact that he was regularly attacking multiple locations absolutely kept Classic on his toes that whole game.
he just keeps going from angle over and over again, doesn't he? Just from all different angles. And yeah, it puts a lot of pressure on Protoss. It really makes it very hard for them to get out there. And the thing is, you know, there's this very delicate balance to that Protoss economy. If they screw up once, lose a whole bunch of probes, it can really hurt them. But yeah, I'm very curious. I'd love to, you know, hear Classic's thoughts on that game. I think he's probably played against Dark where he rushes towards Hive Tech so many times that he really had that on his mind. Because just skipping Storm and going straight up to Tempests really showed a sort of paranoia around Broodlords, but didn't fully respect that mid-game composition of just mass Banelings. You know, they're such a supply-dense unit. Only half the supply per Baneling, yet they pack so much of a punch. Because of that, even though it looks like, oh, it's just 110 supply Zerg army or 130 supply Zerg army, it's actually worth a lot more than that, and you need that area effect damage to slow it down.
Well, you got in here, right? Just double checking real quick.
Yeah.
Okay.
They started that really fast, man.
They did. That's why I was really worried. I was like, oh, I barely got in myself. But all right. It's Newkirk Precinct, ladies and gentlemen. I guess to assess where we're at, if you're just joining us in the cast, this is Group D, or excuse me, no, we swapped over to Group C, that's right. And this is the winner's match. So, winner of this series will move directly into that round of 8 and be safe. The loser will still have one more chance in the group, but we'll get to that in a moment. Because right now, spawning here on the bottom right side of the map, we get the red Zerg player. It's Dark, who I have to add 1 point to the scoreboard for.
And his opponent spawning down here in the bottom left-hand side, our blue Protoss player, it is Classic. Of course, both of these players did live together for a very long time on SKT, SK Telecom. They live together, they practice together. They know each other very well, and this is why sometimes their games do get really weird. Because the players know each other so well, they start to really play the metagame or play the mind games with how they think the other player is going to approach the matchup. And we see things which might not necessarily make full sense to us, but that's because there's just so much going on behind the scenes, the mind games, the adjustments they're both making.
Yeah, well, that reminds me, like, one of my favorite interviews we ever had was actually with Liquid Mana after he'd beaten Snoot in Ting, and one of the things he said was it's not so much that he beat that he beat Zerg, but it was specifically that he beat Snoot, and he knew how he was playing. Their teammates have talked about, they've played each other 100 times over, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was the same dynamic here between Classic and Dark, where maybe they really aren't playing the other race, they are playing each other.
And Classic here going to be going for that Nexus first once more. I would not be surprised to see the same opening. Seemed to put him in a very decent position last game. You know, I by no means think he was behind, especially because he did so well, even though he took that 10 probe loss to that first Baneling drop, or the second Baneling drop, whichever one it was. His Archon drop harass was great, even though he lost the Warp Prism. It felt like they were really toe-in-toe until that last big engagement.
You know, there was definitely mistakes on both sides of the field, but it was always, what I liked about it, it wasn't just like some awkward mistake. Like, for example, Classic loses the Warp Prism, but because he's plugging the hole in the wall to keep Dark out. Dark, on the other hand, messes up and leaves a couple of holes in his opening because he was trying to counterattack at the same time. Like, these two would always do something right, even when they were doing something wrong. And that made it for a really interesting game number one.
That's, yeah, when the players know each other, right? They kind of push harder to try and press each other's buttons, and they usually make more mistakes in the process of it. You get a much messier game. Dark is now going to spot the Stargate, does see that coming up at the front, so cool to see a change up in the play here from Classic. I love to see players that kind of mix things up a little bit, rather than always doing exactly the same thing. You don't want to be too predictable. And nice Stalker here as well, actually going to be catching an Overlord. Of course, on the other side of things, Dark, he mined a lot of gas, but he's actually not using the gas. He didn't go for the Overlord speed this time around. He has, though, been a little bit annoying with these two Zerglings in the main base.
Yeah, this is the unfortunate problem here when you're chasing that Overlord. You don't have anything sitting in that wall to keep the Lings out. As you can see, a little bit of micro doesn't make this too hard to deal with, but still annoying nonetheless. This costs Dark an Overlord, which is not a great start to the game for him, but yeah, it's not gonna lose this too easily either. He's gonna get that scout. Saw the mothership core get made, so he knows this did not get skipped entirely. And if he's looking real close, you'll see that that's a Void Ray coming out of that Stargate. So of course, you can see what the shape of the unit is.
Very interesting adjustment. Of course, Void Rays, guys, did get a speed buff in the most recent patch. One of the things no one's really talking about. And well, I guess you can understand why. It's
not just that they got a speed buff, but it was a really minimal speed buff. It was kind of like, oh yeah, now you guys take one extra step every 500 feet. Like it's good, it's noticeable, but it's so small.
Yeah, I need to look up the numbers on it. It's not something you really think too much about. It's just it's like a quality of life improvement more than anything. But Dark so far with good defense did a lot of damage to that Oracle. Of course, Classic keeps it alive. It's only really disastrous for the Protoss if the Oracle does go down. It did get 2 drone kills. So if it can maybe pick off some Zerglings or use some Revelations, pick off some drones later on, then it will end up paying for itself. It's getting late in the day, and I am tripping over my words more than a drunk man tripping over the gutter right now.
What time is it over in Australia right now?
It's not late. It's just that I'm sick, and you know
I'm so
we've been casting for almost 9 hours. It's almost 9 o'clock in the night.
Oh, okay, yeah, we're coming up on 2 a.m. here on the West Coast, so I was a little bit curious how late that was for you, because I knew it was late either way. But anyways, I like the points you're making about the Oracle. The unit is so much more valuable than the damage it does. It's just kind of cool that it can also do damage. One of the things we saw in the previous Protoss series today, my brain's mush, so I don't remember which one, but we saw a lot of stasis traps coming down, and it was really cool to see a defensive setup. I think it was on Whirlwind 2, where there's like 4 to 6 stasis traps just littered across the map.
Ooh, this is a lot of gateways coming down here for Classic. He is probing up, so he's not going all in right now, but I think he's going to commit to a big Adept attack here. This is super bizarre. Maybe just trying to overpower Dark, catching him out, droning a bit too much, and just do like a mass Adept frontal push, spread them out against the Banelings. There is the potential for something like that, but not quite sure what he's going to do just yet. Oh, the Zerglings! They get in the base and they turn around and leave the base. So Dark feeling a little bit friendly there. Didn't want to see the extra 5 gateways hidden in the main. And that's actually pretty massive right now. Classic cancels his frontal gas. Oh man, this is so weird right now. He's just going to mass Adepts and go, but look at this. Dark somehow knows what's going on. He's just massing Ling Bane off 49 drones. He's actually down 15 workers. So Classic is kind of doing an almost all-in attack into a Zerg who's just waiting to receive it. This is exactly what happened the last time they played in SSL, where Classic would hit these really hard timing attacks, and Dark would anticipate it and just have way more units than a Zerg would normally have at that point in the game.
Well, that is certainly a hell of a lot of Adepts. I mean, the one great thing Dark has going for him are upgrades. He counterattacks with Lings, they can surround these pylons, they go down pretty quick thanks to the melee buff. But also, it's going to benefit the Banelings trying to kill those Adepts. More on that in a moment, though, because the Lings are busy killing things on the left side of the field.
Sentries warp into the main base along with... Drops the Sentry, sorry, warps in Adepts. Force fields the ramp, but his Natural's getting ransacked. He didn't
or Queen drops.
At all.
I thought he was going to drop Banes on top of the Sentries, but it brings Queens over to the main. I guess it helps. Spinecrawlers advance forward. He really needs to take care of the Sentries to stop those warp-ins, to stop the force fields. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, it's a small amount of Lings, but they're doing insurmountable amounts of damage. Up to 23 probes killed, and there doesn't seem to be a way to stop them. It's such a... Look, it's 1 Ling, it's 2 Lings, but they're killing everything.
Oh, this is just insane, man. Classic here, you know, he really felt like he needed to hit hard and fast. Little did he know that Dark actually had a really small economy. And I think Dark now, with this just abundance of units, is going to be able to crush the attack.
GG. 2-0. Yo, I was trying to understand the Queen drop there at the end. It didn't dawn on me until after we saw the repercussions. It was specifically to take care of War Prism, no more Warpins, no more nothing. Just everything else could eventually slowly bleed out, but only Queens could kill the War Prism. That's so cool.
Damn, man. I'm opening up that replay to see if there was a tell the Dark got, because that was insane. I remember watching the replays or the VODs really closely of the last time they played, and there would be absolutely no scouting information that Dark would get that Classic was going to go for a big attack, and he would just stop at this silly low drone count, mass units, hide it, wait until Classic would push on to creep, and then he'd like just surround him and kill him. And you'd be watching this game and you'd just be like, what the hell is going on here? And And this is like the teammate effect, right? Where they just have the weirdest tells that like let them know what the other player is doing.
Yeah.
I think it was just the 2 gateways that he added behind his wall off. Dark saw that, didn't really see anything else. And then he's just like, yeah, I'm just not going to build any workers. I'm just going to mass units, make spine crawlers. I'm going to camp at home and just mass up these units. And I think if Classic had any idea that this was happening, and he just warped in Adepts at home, defended the Ling counterattack, slowed down, warped in a few more rounds of units, I don't think Dark could have kept up in production because he was just way down on economy. But Classic thought he was up a much bigger economy from Dark, thought he had to kill him quickly before he got out lots of tech units, and he got a little bit over-eager and just kind of overcommitted there.
Well, this means our next match is going to be BL versus Gyeonggi, right?
So the next match will be the Group C elimination match. That will be, yeah, that should be Gyeonggi versus BL. And then, of course, the winner of that will go on to face Classic in the decider match, which will be the last match for today. So we're going to be going to the second last match of the day next, and then the final match following that.
By the way, congratulations to Dark making it out of his group flawless, 2-0 into a 2-0.
Oh, yeah. And
Actually,
Gyeonggi brought a lot of pressure in that first set as well. He didn't give him an easy time of it.
I just want to point out, him and Beyond might be the only players possibly doing that. Everyone else has not had completely clean map scores. Like Sue lost the game earlier. Innovation even lost the game to stats. I mean, 1 to Lucira. Beyond and Dark are the only people set up to possibly get out of the group without any mistakes. And wouldn't you know, those are the two who fought in the finals of BlizzCon 2016. I'm just saying, guys. Anyways, yeah, well, not even potential. Dark is out. We'll find out if Beyond makes it out flawless or not. He's still playing, I think, against Myra on the mainstream, so we're probably going to be waiting just a little bit longer, guys, but hopefully not too long. I would love if they would let us just blaze through the rest of the group. However, we are at the whim of the ESL and IEM admins, so stick around. We're going to do the whole play some music and chill out, and hopefully we get this next series going sooner than later. So thanks for watching, and don't go anywhere.